We want to help you bridge the gap between what you know and where you want your music to grow. And I am excited to use the technology that Vimeo provides for us to welcome my co host, Erin May Lewis, here.
Hi!
Erin May was telling me about her rabbit hole that she went down, and it reminded me that when we co-hosted the live workshop with Aubrey Atwater last December, she taught us this Gene Ritchie tune, and I was saying, well, I recorded that, but I couldn't find it. And then when I found it, it was on cassette, and I did not have a way to get that to be that analog thing into a digital world yet. And but it just laid there in the back. Sometimes projects simmer on the back burner, sometimes the fire goes off. but
Right?
but then Erin May and I were talking, and she said, I just spent 3 hours in a rabbit hole, and I know good things are going to happen when she comes back out of the rabbit hole. So that led to this tune today. And we may have some other tunes from the rabbit hole in the future, but today it's Down Came an Angel. Tell us about it.
Well, it was sparked by Aubrey's workshop last year on Dulcimer Crossing, her Gene Ritchie Christmas workshop. And she taught a tune called Christ Was Born in Bethlehem. And I was like, okay. But then, Steve, it was you. You said, oh, it's so lovely to see Down Came an Angel again. And I was like, wait, what? Because Down Came an Angel is in Larkin's Dulcimer book, which was my first Dulcimer book.
And one of my first ones.
Introduction to the pinching technique and finger picking, where you pinch the outside strings. And I played this song a gajillion times, but I had never ever heard it. I had no idea how it was supposed to sound. I didn't sing at all at that point. I just played the little pinch, pluck, pinch, pluck, pinch, pluck over and over and over and over again. And then forgot about the song completely because I had no context for knowing it. But the name Down Came an Angel triggered the picture of it in that book. It was like, wait, I know I played this song. So that was kind of where I left the rabbit hole last year, except that either you or Aubrey said, well, I heard it from a John McCutcheon recording.
That would have been Aubrey.
And I said, John McCutcheon played this? I want to find that recording. And then I discovered that it was not available anywhere. So, similar to your experience with your cassette tape recording, there's an era where a lot of the music was like, it's just right now. It hasn't been digitized yet. It's in the music that hasn't, it's not quite old enough to have been the first priority to digitize, but
right?
It's not new enough to be natively digital. And
yes.
So I wrote to John McCutcheon last winter and said, John, I'm trying to find your album that has Christ Was Born in Bethlehem on it. And I haven't been able to find it anywhere. Is it available? Can I buy it from you? And he said, it's not available. It's out of print. I don't have it, but here's the MP3 of this song. So he has digitized at least that song or had figured out a way. Anyway, he sent it to me. So I got John McCutcheon's recording of it last year. And then this year I went back down the rabbit hole and I went much further into it.
Revisiting the rabbit hole.
Revisiting the rabbit hole. Yes, I saw a peek into the rabbit hole last year, and it was intriguing enough for me to go way further into it. I was just gonna, do a 30-minute prep for a thing, and then I spent 3 hours. So where do you want to start?
We're not going to be able to start. Why don't we start? I don't care.
At which beginning? Which beginning do we start with?
there is this illusion that we can start at the beginning of anything, right?
Uh-huh.
We because we always my grandson was born yesterday, and he's not starting at the beginning of my life or his parents' life. He's
Mhm.
starting after the end of other people's lives who made it possible for him to be here. And he's not going to be awake and aware of things for quite a while in terms of
Uh-huh.
those relationships. So none of
Right.
us ever starts at a beginning. We always come awake in the middle of something. And when we're doing historical research, we often plow back and dig and crawl deeper into the hole. But just because we find it at this level doesn't mean that's where it came from or that's the origin, right? And
Right.
this gets me back to my college studies in history and my degree in history. It's you get to see all these things, and then you've got to figure out that with the best knowledge you have at the time, oh, I know that Edna is a sister of Jean, and Jean was much younger than Edna. Okay, so that's
Mhm.
and John McCutcheon celebrated Jean Ritchie's 100th birthday anniversary was over the weekend. I think it was the 10th,
Yeah.
and he said she was my first song mentor, or it
Hmm.
was something about songwriting. It was her songwriting
Mhm.
was the thing that really grabbed him at an early place. So then with that internal evidence, you can kind of see, well, Edna was older than Jean, and you found something about where the song came from. But maybe we should hear, why don't we hear Edna?
Well, I was actually wondering if we wanted to start at our beginnings with
Oh,
it and work back. What do you
okay.
think? Or do you
We
wanna
can always
start with
do
Edna?
that. No,
Oh,
I let's just let's go with your idea.
okay. Well, so I can put on the screen a scan of the transcription from Larkin's, Dulcimer book and just
Okay.
play it that way. So that would have been um, my first introduction to it. Let me put the I'm almost ready. Technology has too many buttons involved. Okay, so this is the Larkin version of it, which is actually the only version I've found so far that has any chords worked into the transcription. So, Christ was born in Bethlehem. Christ was born in Bethlehem. Christ was born in Bethlehem, and in a manger lay, and in a manger lay, and turn the page, in a manger lay. Christ was born in Bethlehem, and in a manger lay.
That is so sweet, and that's what similar to the way that Aubrey played in
And
terms of
I'll be
tempo.
honest, that is now quite influenced by having listened to it many times. But when I was learning to play it, it went like this. And I never knew it was supposed to be faster. And I never actually understood where the melody was. So it was just a lot of sound going very
Uh-huh.
slowly and plotting. It never really made sense as a song, until I heard it.
Well, but that also describes a lot of people's experience with finger picking from tablature, where you're focusing on
Right.
what are the fingers, what are the strings, what are the frets. That's a lot to manage, and
It
if you
is.
don't know it already,
Mhm.
or you haven't adapted the melody is larger and bolder, so you can see out of this flurry of notes which ones could be the melody on its own. Um, and thanks to Joe Collins for thinking of that idea. Um, it's easy for us when we find something to just plunge in and not know what's going on. But let me share how I saw it first, and that is I want a window. I want that window. And this was from Gene Ritchie's Celebration of Life book. It had no tablature. Yeah, thank you.
Mm.
You have that's a later edition of it than mine
So
was.
this one actually Aubrey sent to me last year when she was cleaning out her extra books.
Aha.
So
So this is what I saw, and it was one of the tunes. I had never heard it before, and I had all of. Okay, there we go. Oops. Um, this when I was trying to figure out dulcimers and music, this is all I had to work with. So I thought, okay, I'm in D, and I figured out I needed that 6.5, and I was on an instrument that didn't. I need a 6, and I didn't have an. I had an instrument that didn't have a 6.5, so I had to retune to the 158 tuning. Christ was born in Bethlehem. Christ was born in Bethlehem. Christ was born in Bethlehem, and in a manger lay. And in a manger lay, and in a manger lay. Christ was born in Bethlehem, and in a manger lay. And so that's the way I recorded it in 1985, which was a couple of years after I figured out how to play the dulcimer. But this was, or play music on dulcimer. I built my first one in 1980 and couldn't play music because I could only play what other people had put on their screen. Let's see. There we go. I got to do that to stop. And so I did. This was one of those tunes. I was in the fall of the year. I was Sunday afternoon, sun streaming in through my balcony windows that looked west toward the foothills and outside of Denver, and all of a sudden, I say the scales fell from my eyes into my hands, and I could play music. And what I meant was I could play something like this on a dulcimer. And that was,
Mhm.
I'd seen things with tablature, but I didn't understand it. And the first books I saw were just lead lines with numbers underneath. There were nothing about strings and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is us starting at our different places. Now let's take a step back. Oh, my
Yeah.
words were all the Easter words too. And yours were all the
Yeah.
Christmas words, right?
Right. So this was an interesting part of the rabbit hole because Aubrey Atwater is who we're referring to. Aubrey
Yeah.
Atwater, who learned a lot from Gene Ritchie and studied with them, said according to her understanding, there were two sets of words. And one set of words was sung at Easter time, which is the sort of down came an angel version of it. And another set was sung at Christmas time called Christ was born in Bethlehem. I have actually only found two recordings with the Christmas lyrics, and both of them were more modern recordings. They were Aubrey's
Uh,
recording and they a choral arrangement recording with the Christmas lyrics.
huh.
Everything else I found was the Easter lyrics. So sort of the furthest back reference I found was actually a book. There I found Google has some old books digitized, and I found one called Songs of Gladness for the Sabbath School. And I don't know, let's see. I'm going to have to stop and start the screen share a couple of times, but the copyright page here in tiny small print you can see in the year 1868 in Eastern Pennsylvania is where the copyright was filed anyway. So we have this book from 1868, and it has Christ was born in Bethlehem in there.
Yes.
And it is not the same tune. I was playing it last night, so it's written in E flat. So I'm gonna grab my handy dandy chromatic dulcimer just for the sake of reading off the page. um,
Interesting. It's got the same metric feel.
It does. The kind of long, short, long, short,
Yeah.
long. Uh-huh. Yeah. So it is written, Christ was born in Bethlehem. Christ was born in Bethlehem. Christ was born in Bethlehem, and in a manger lay. And in a manger lay, and in a manger lay, Christ is born in Bethlehem, and in a manger lay.
Ha 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 ha. All right.
And you can
And
see a lot of the lyrics are kind of the same. It's got that same kind of storyline of he was of the crucifixion, right? It's the
yeah.
storyline of the crucifixion.
And just as a sideline, Doug Jones is writing in the chat that last they had a choir concert last Sunday, and Noël Nouvelet is a French
Huh?
carol that is called Noël Nouvelet, but that's "Sing We Now of Christmas, Sing We Now of Christmas." Dum ba da dum
Dum,
bum
da, da,
bum.
dum, bum.
Its Easter words are now, it's a more modern translation. Now the green blade rises from the buried grain. So within the carol tradition, which is its whole complete thing separate from hymnody, is this song that got used in both places. And so what they did as a way of doing that, which I think is cool, at the beginning at the end of the first half, the bell choir played the "Now the Green Blade Rises," and at the beginning of the second half, the Sanctuary Choir sang "Sing We Now of Christmas." So after the intermission, you hear the same thing twice, but with the
Ah,
which is, I think that's brilliant.
that's really neat. Well, and some of the research I've done about old, like what we now think of as Christmas carols and some of our traditions, there was the tradition in the Renaissance era of the mystery plays.
Yep.
And the mystery plays had sort of the whole life of Jesus encompassed in them. And a lot of the songs in that out of that tradition that have survived have made it into part of our Christmas tradition, but they don't stop at the birth of Jesus. They go from the birth of Jesus all the way through to crucifixion and resurrection as part of a telling of the Christmas story. So it's interesting to me that in my sort of searching for things, the Easter words to Christ was born in Bethlehem / down came an angel are almost always associated with Christmas. Um, Gene Ritchie's recording is on an album of carols, and it's
Okay.
the
Yeah.
Easter words. And so it is associated with Christmas in most of the places, even though the lyrics are the Easter lyrics in most of those places. Fascinating.
yeah. And,
So,
and and Jim Fry
go
saying
ahead.
the Ukrainian Carol of the Bells was originally a Christmas an Easter hymn that got
Yes, I read
associated
about
with.
that this year
Yeah.
too.
So I think, that's the interesting thing. There is a way in which, I mean, my grandson was born yesterday, and that means a big deal in my world. It means nothing. It wasn't on NPR. Nobody's going to
Yeah.
mark that until he does something. And
Mhm.
then it'll be so it's not until you go off in your life people come back and want to know, where were you born? That's the later thing that happens as a result, because people are being born all the time. Yay, I love that. And I love the mystery of who knows what this one will do. But and and but it's that we rehearse these things every year, and some of them we get tired of, some of them, which is why it's fun to go down the rabbit hole and find these connections. It's almost
Yeah.
like being in a clue game, right? Where this is the secret passageway to the library, you know.
Right. Yeah.
uh, have we got another we can we hear something?
Yeah. So let's listen to the Edna Ritchie
Okay.
recording. Um, so oh, hang on. So, Edna Ritchie's melody is very similar to what we both learned. except she does not include that flat 7 mixolydian note. So as you're
Interesting.
listening to it, listen for that. Christ was born in Bethlehem. Christ was born in Bethlehem. Christ was born in Bethlehem, and in a manger lay. And in a manger lay, and in a manger lay. Christ was born in Bethlehem, and in a manger lay.
Ah, so she just
Judah
left it out.
Yeah, so she's just stays on the fifth instead of going up to the flat 7.
And she doesn't replace it with the regular 7, which is aha. When you said that, I didn't expect that. So that's cool. That's cool. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah. Um in in one of Jean Ritchie's other books, The Folk Songs of the Southern Appalachians, she shares a little story
Oh, let's
about
yeah.
the finding of this. So I'm going to read this little paragraph. The transcription in that book is exactly the same as the transcription in the Celebration of Life book, but the Celebration of Life book doesn't include the little story. And so that came from Folk Songs of the Southern Appalachians. She said, "This Easter ballad is one of the most beautiful and moving in my family repertoire. The country folk in fashioning this song have given the members of the Holy Family the feelings, actions, and speech of real people, and it is this human thing that reaches out of the song to touch our hearts. My father, it seems, had known the song when he was a young boy growing up on Clear Creek in Knott County, Kentucky, the Kentucky adjoining Perry, where he later moved. But he had not thought of it in years until one weekend my sister Jewel came home singing it, and then he remembered. Jewel was teaching in her first year of school there on Clear Creek, and every morning one little boy kept hollering out, 'Let's sing Down Came an Angel.' Jewel didn't know the song, but finally one morning she said, 'All right, but you'll have to lead it.' So he began it, and it turned out that the other students knew it too. And Jewel learned it from them and brought it home and retaught it to us. Cecil Sharp in English Folk Songs from the Southern Appalachians gives a North Carolina version, and Evelyn K. Wells in The Ballad Tree gives the variant she learned from Edna Feltner in Pine Mountain, Kentucky. Although it is not often found in this country, I encountered it a few years ago in New York. I sang my version at the Country Dance Society party, and one of the members, Mrs. Baker, told me she remembered the miners' wives singing it in a little different way from mine as they went caroling from house to house in Wigan, England, when she was a girl. So, from that, it seems to me that this was a song that almost got lost, except in this one little county in Kentucky where the people remembered it. And then that memory sort of is like a thing that sparked more of us to be able to know it.
Yeah. Our mutual friend and colleague Deb Cowan, that's her tagline on her emails. Um, a song a song that is not sung dies. So,
Mhm.
Doug, earlier you mentioned, and I think this is a common experience for a lot of people. You said you wish you'd had some, some money for every time somebody says everybody knows this tune. You're going, I don't know that tune. It truthfully, that's my experience almost everywhere, right?
Uh-huh.
But in the dulcimer world, there has come to be the expectation that there's a thing called dulcimer music, which is a repertoire that's all dulcimer players know. In fact, that's how I learned Spotted Pony from Erin May, because her teacher told her this is one all dulcimer players know, and I didn't know it. So it was right there at the
Uh-huh.
beginning. But it was the I don't know that, show me, I want to learn it thing.
Mhm.
Is maybe if we could all say that's okay, I don't know it.
Right.
But I won't know it until you play it and teach it to me. So please do. And
Yeah.
and Jen, not feel bad because I don't know that one. Just also know that you know a bunch of things they don't, because every one of our paths has come from a different place, and we don't even sometimes realize the value of what we have in our satchel until we realize that other people don't know it. We just think, well, everybody knows this. No, I don't know that one.
Mhm. Monday, in our youth dulcimer club, we have a kid who recently joined us through getting a dulcimer from Deb Porter for dulcimers for David, and he is having a lot of fun with the dulcimer. And he said to me, "Is there any Neil Diamond music in the collection of music that the Youth Dulcimer Club kids have?" And I said, "Well, not yet, because Miss Erin doesn't really listen to very much modern music." And he goes, "It's like from the 70s."
Ancient Miss
And
Erin.
I was like, "Yeah, I know. Miss Erin mostly listens to music from the 1920s and back." I like old music. And then I taught them Down Came an Angel, and but I told them that I would listen to some Neil Diamond and we could learn some of those songs too.
Where it began. Da da ba da 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 da. Da 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 bum, bum. Sweet Caroline.
Aw.
um
See, rabbit holes.
yes, yeah. Oh yes, I love this. We might have to do songs from the rabbit hole in the future.
We might have to do songs from the rabbit hole in the future. Yes. So Aubrey Atwater has recorded the Christmas lyrics. So that's one that you can find on YouTube under Christ Was Born in Bethlehem. Gene Ritchie recorded it under Christ Was Born in Bethlehem on the a Carols album. Tim and Molly O'Brien actually recorded Christ Was Born in Bethlehem, and Nick Forrester plays mountain dulcimer on that recording, which
Really?
was a fun connection for me to discover because I've been a Tim O'Brien fan through my bluegrass track for a bajillion years. I mean, Tim O'Brien has been one of my earliest influences. And I had no idea that he had ever recorded anything with a mountain dulcimer. And it was in looking for this song that I discovered that. So, yeah, it's really fun.
What's the name of their recording?
The recording, it was Tim and Molly O'Brien, and the album is called Take Me Back.
Okay. I'm putting it into the chat here so that
Mm-hmm.
take me back. Okay, very cool. Well, one of the
So
things go ahead.
I have compiled a document with a lot of the links and things that I referred to. So I will try to see if there's a way for me to share that in the Facebook page or maybe on the cataloging it on the Dulcimer Crossing page or some way to share that.
It'll be easy on the Dulcimer Crossing page. I think you could add it after we're done. Just go to Facebook to the Dulcimer Crossing page and add it as a. I think we'll figure it out.
We will. We'll find a way.
We're gonna make sure that the things we find in the rabbit hole don't all just go back into it.
Well, that's what I realized when you and I started talking about this is that I had spent 3 hours going down the rabbit hole, finding all these interesting links. I saved a few of them, took a couple of screenshots, and had all these things just sitting not even in a folder or file of any kind. And when we started talking about doing this, I thought, well, why don't I just compile this into a document and then I don't have to do it again next time I want to remember this information.
So when you went to Mr. Rogers' Academy, you learned the skills of writing reports, right? This
Yes.
is why we learned all that stuff under duress, usually, right?
There
Uh,
is a real life application for that?
it's not true that we all learned under duress. Some of us liked it, but had to make it look like we didn't because we
Right,
would not be
right.
popular with the other kids. But some of us,
I hate school. Secretly writing war
yes,
reports.
I hate school becomes a song about how much I hate school. So I've creatively engaged this, and maybe everybody then will like me because I wrote a song that says I hate school, but I used all the things I learned in school to do it. Oh, well, Aaron May, thank you so much for um, going down the rabbit hole, coming back out with all these treasures and being willing to share them. We have some more treasures to share this week, don't we?
We do. There's a Dulcimer Crossing live workshop with Jessica Como, who is another person who goes down rabbit holes and comes back with really interesting music.
And that will be Thursday at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. You'll have to do the transition or the translation for
To
your
your own time
time
zone.
zone. Um, but after, I'm going to put this link into the chat. Just that's this Thursday, and um,
That's
oh,
tomorrow.
that's tomorrow. It's happening
Thursday is tomorrow.
tomorrow. And I want to call attention to something that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. But have you seen Dwayne and Tim at in their week in today's? I think it was in today's Facebook Live thing that they do down in McSpadden.
I haven't seen today's yet.
We are hosting an four equidistant Dulcimer Day next March, right? They
Yes,
have
we are.
built a ginger that's 4-string, chromatic, tuned like an ukulele.
Oh my goodness.
So something we didn't even think about. Yes, and there was a green dulcimer there too. So look at the dulcimer shop at Mountain View, Arkansas. Follow them on Facebook. You can see their posts. That's coming up. Um,
There are many
th-
different rabbit holes we can go down.
yes, and one more. I have a workshop this Saturday on my Christmas. And Aaron May and I were talking about this. This might be something future we do. Uh, oh my goodness, I gotta find it. This is I arranged Vince Giraldi's Christmas Time is Here for FAC tuning so that I could play all those rich jazz chords. And I
Uh-huh.
understand that Aaron May has done it in chromatic, and I know
I
that Butch
have.
Ross has done it in a. We got to find out what his tuning was. But we might have
Uh-huh.
to do an event like that in the future. What do you think?
I like it. Let's go down more rabbit holes together.
But to begin with, here is where you can sign up for this workshop this week. Now, the thing is, my legal copies are printed on Sheet Music Plus, which is owned by Hal Leonard. So the only tablature comes from them. There will be some resources you can have that I can provide to you for how FAC works, where the notes are, what are chords, and all that kind of stuff. But the actual tablature for the song is at that. You can find the link at this link I gave you in the chat. But that's this Saturday coming up. And then I'm going to have a Don't Lick the Iceberg concert on Friday night. It's a busy week.
It's
Quarantine
a busy
Festival.
week.
Quarantine Festival has
Quarantine,
concerts on Saturday and Sunday next week. And you
Sunday
can,
and Monday.
I mean, sorry, Sunday and Monday.
That's right. So Thursday you hang out with Jessica.
Yeah.
Friday you go to Steve's Don't Lick the Iceberg concert. Saturday you go to Steve's class. Sunday you go to the Quarantine Christmas concert. Monday you go to the Quarantine Christmas concert.
And on Tuesday, what tunes are you teaching next week for Advent?
Advent, right. We are doing I don't remember which ones I picked for next week.
Coming to be surprised, and it'll be the last week of the Dulcimer Friendly Evening Prayer, because that's the 4th week of Advent, and
Yeah.
so that you can be with us all week.
Yay! So much Christmas. So
It's
much music.
so much Dulcimer, so much fun, and you know that That just makes my heart happy. There's a lot making my heart happy right now. Um, at church on Sunday, the theme was joy, and boy, I've got it. So,
Yay.
yay.
Thanks for
Well,
sharing some with all of us.
yes, and thank you for joining us. And if you join with us later, you can. This is archived on Facebook. It's archived on our YouTube channel and our Vimeo page, as well as in our site where it's archived with all of our other live streams, which have been going. We're coming up on 3 years.
Wow.
So there's a lot that's been archived and saved there. And there's one more thing we should mention because we're getting close. And
Oh, the DADDAA class.
yes, we're doing a master class.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get the link. Why don't you say something about that?
So, one of the things that kind of comes up periodically is, can you play with each other if you're tuned in different ways? And how does that all work? And so, when Steve and I first met, he played almost entirely in DAA, and I was only in DAD, but we figured out ways of playing music together. And over the years, we've continued to figure out ways of playing music together. And so, we wanted to spend a couple of hours really diving into what does it look like to play music together in DAD and DAA tunings, and how can we all be friends?
And have the tools to be able to teach your other friends who don't know how to do it yet. So
Right.
that's coming
Right.
up in January 7th. So you can start off the new year with that kind of equipment for the entire year.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Sarah May.
Thank you, Steve. We'll see you
And
soon.
yes, bye bye.